Hey there, and welcome to yet another one of my cheesy YouTube videos. This video was going to be a video on replacing the brakes and packing the wheel bearings on my 1981 or 82, I think I done forgot the year, Volkswagen Rabbit pickup truck. Unfortunately, the video is drug on a little bit, so it'll be two sections, and you're about to watch part one, replacing the brakes. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure your vehicle is supported on jack stands or wooden blocks or whatever. The reason why I say wooden blocks is that if I'm working in the dirt, I won't use jack stands. Instead, I put wooden blocks underneath the axles. I'm afraid the jack stands are going to sink in the dirt and the whole car will wind up on the ground. I found the truck and figured, well, I'll just do a quick engine swap, pull the gas engine out of this little Rabbit pickup truck and put ALH TDI in it, which is a really nice diesel engine. I thought it was going to be a quick job, but I actually wound up hurting my back, and my whole life has started moving a whole lot slower since. So first thing I want to do is take this dust cap off. Sometimes I try to get it to spin a little bit. See, that's how it kind of broke loose and it come off. What you don't want to do is you don't want to damage the cap. It may not seal good to the hub and water may get in and mess with your bearings. If we look here, we'll see that this is kind of rusty looking. So perhaps the rear seal is not in too good a shape. To me it looks like it could be rusty. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. Not at all. Next thing, there's a cotter key in here. I like to use dikes or diagonal cut pliers to get underneath the ends of the cotter key. Straighten up good enough to get a good bite on it with the dikes and get under it. And these are actually not diagonal cut. These are wire pliers, and I love these wire pliers. This style of wire plier is all I use. Highly recommend them. This particular axle has this stamped metal castle adapter to go on top of the nut. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's got a flat-sided axle nut. Doesn't have any, it's not castellated. The castellation's on that little stamped tin piece of metal I just took off. This washer has a little tab that goes into a groove on the axle, and that keeps this washer from spinning, which any spinning rotation of the bearing is not transferred to the nut, which could potentially back the nut off. But the castellation of that adapter should prevent that also. There is the outer wheel bearing. Now, keep your wheel bearings for the hub they came out of. Don't throw them all in a bucket of solvent and then not know which one came from what race. They're already worn in. It's best to keep them where they came from. This drum. Oh yeah, the drum. The reason why I'm messing with the back brakes on this little truck is when I bought it, the right rear wheel would not spin. I had to drag it onto the trailer. And so when I got in the shop, got it on jack stands, I took that wheel off and found out the brake lining had come loose, got wadded up inside of there, and it was preventing the wheel from spinning. This is the left side. You see that? The brake lining has come off on the left side also. Linings are either riveted or glued to the brake shoe. And either way, this one's come off. Okay, today I'm going to be replacing the brake shoes and the wheel cylinder. I am not replacing the hardware kit, the springs and the keepers. I highly recommend that you do replace the hardware kits, but I will inspect mine, and if I think they're still good, I'll keep them. And if I find a bad part, I'll probably go look at one of my junk VWs and try to rob them. But the kits aren't expensive, I just forgot to order them. So you want to remember how everything is set up in here. And the best way to do that is only do one side at a time. Leave the other side together, so if you have a question, you can go look at it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these keepers off. These springs and these keepers hold the brake pads up against the backing plate, the brake shoes. Forgive me if I call them pads. They're not pad, but I have a habit of running off at the mouth, using words that don't fit. They do make tools for this, but I'm assuming that if you are watching my video on how to do this, you probably don't own the tools anyways. Just a pin that comes in from the back. It's got a T on it. Spring goes through it, and the T goes up through here, drops in, and this turns and holds it in place. I'll tell you what would be a good thing to do now is just try to work this spring off here before having to get up. Now this one should just pop right out actually. This truck's been sitting for years, so things may not move like they should. So here's this bottom spring. This is part of the park brake mechanism and all of that. This cable goes to your park brake handle. It just works its way into this bracket right here, or this lever. And sometimes you gotta fight with it. And it'll come off, it's just there it goes, pop right off. It sits in a groove right in here. So when you go back together, you'll have to fight with that again. This has kind of held itself together. Now this is a tad bit different than American made. Usually on American made, there'll be an adjuster that sits in here, and it'll ride between these two shoes, and it's got a little lever that when you hit the brakes or the shoes go out, and that lever will hit on that adjuster, and if the adjuster's got enough travel, it'll click it and it'll move it a little bit further, and that adjuster keeps your brake shoes the proper distance from your drums. It keeps your brakes adjusted. Next, I'm going to replace the wheel cylinder. It's got two Allen head bolts that hold it, but first, before I do that, it's got a line with an 11 millimeter hex on it, on the nut. Line wrench would come in really handy right now. And I use line wrenches almost all the time when I'm dealing with nuts on brake lines and stuff like that, because they'll round out. They just love to round out. I will not be bleeding the brakes on this today. I'm just replacing the shoes on the rear. And then it's just the Allen hex bolts. There we have it. First thing I did is check the part number on the boxes for the wheel cylinders to make sure they're not two different part numbers, which would tell me there's a left and a right. In this case, they're the same, so that's good. Now I'm just going to check them. Though they're designed a little different, they appear to be the same. They got this little step right here, which was outboard. I'll make sure they're turned towards the outboard. A lot of cases when you're doing a brake job, there's no need to change the wheel cylinders. But as old as this little truck is, I figure I ought to. And inside there's a rubber seal. You can just replace the rubber seals. And before you do so, you run a hone through that's the proper diameter. But these are froze up, so it's good that I ordered new ones anyways. It feels like that Allen screw is started. All right, this much is ready to go. And cleaning this is very important. Also, not getting this oil film or grease on your hands on the brake pads or inside the drums. You may notice my shirt's changed colors. It's because it's another day. I had ordered the brake shoes for this Volkswagen 2 years ago, and just had them sitting there waiting to when I got around to it. Open up the box and they're the wrong parts. The box says it fits it. The part number says it fits it, but they're wrong. This is for 7.88 inch drum. And the ones I ordered measured out to be like 7.01 or something like that. They're for a sedan. So I'm taking the springs apart. I took this spring off. This spring, this little light duty spring goes from this lever right up in here down to this hole right here. Matter of fact, I hang it into the hole of the new shoe. And then this piece has got 2 springs. Both of them are pretty taut, so it might take a little grunting to get the springs loose. This big spring hooks right here, comes around. It's not a hook, it kind of goes and it got like a dog leg to it. The smaller spring hooks, it goes and just hooks onto this one, and then it hooks onto this metal piece right here. Sometimes you can take them and you can just twist them apart. Not necessarily these Volkswagen ones, but like American car ones. And the springs will loosen up and you can just pull them right out. This lever is kind of floating in here. And as these brakes go apart, pushed apart by the hydraulic cylinder, the wheel cylinder, this lever will drop further and further into this groove, and this spring will keep it there. I'm going to go ahead and try to get this lever to come out backwards. And then she'll give me some more play down here to loosen the spring tension. There the lever is. I think that lever just continues to drop through and keeps the brakes closer to the drum. So the wheel cylinder doesn't have a lot of travel. Forgive my sheep. They're running around trying to find the rest of the herd. It ain't my fault. Ain't my fault. Okay. I got this spring off. There's that little dog leg I was talking about. Now this is much looser. Shoe slid right off now. It's highly recommended to replace all the springs and the hardware. So just because I'm not doing it doesn't mean you shouldn't. And remember, if you follow to the end of my videos, my videos are for entertainment purposes only. Why doesn't this one slide off of there? Okay. This has got to slide down. This piece has got to slide down. It's got a step in it. It's got to slide down to where that step, to where this bracket here is as narrow as this step, and the bracket drops into the step and it'll slide out. That's kind of an interesting way of doing things. I'm gasping right now because I'm so tired of buying junk. I'm tired of spending money and buying junk. So I had to drive the pin out so I can take this piece off. And I'm going to use the old lever, which I drove off the old brake shoe and I drove it back on this one. Then once I put the pin back through, I whacked it a few times and mushroomed it out. The curves they put into this piece are opposite from the curves that are in this piece and more exaggerant. So the piece that rides in here was binding up when I used this piece. The shoe to accommodate this piece is different. The old one's a good straight cut. This one's some funky, nasty punch. So let me continue putting it back together and hopefully wind up with a good pair of working brake shoes. What I am concerned about, and especially with this piece, was that as a park brake, which the park brake cable hooks into here, when this piece comes back, it was hitting on the shoe. Now it's clearing, but I also had to kind of tweak this piece a little bit because I could have actually bent this piece when I drove it out. To 2 new shoes now. Still got this little spring exactly the way it came out. I mean, this spring never came off of this bracket. So this spring will come across, I believe it hooks right here. Where did it hook? This is where you can play investigator. You look at it and you can say, paint being messed up. It looks like it went to this hole here. Paint is not messed up on this hole, but there's a shiny spot right here, which will tell me that's where it goes. My greasy hands are getting grease on the shoe. I'm going to clean this with brake clean before I put the drum on. It's just a nasty mess. Usually I try to keep my hands completely clean. Now this spring with the dog leg drops down through this hole and comes across like that. And it hooks into this groove right here, like so. But just the awkwardness of it, you got to pull this spring past the bracket and into here before this sits into place right here. So my 2 upper springs are in place. My bracket's in place. I got to send this piece, put this piece in its spot, and its spot is in this whole little notch right here. And this tit on here is supposed to face outwards, not supposed to face and touch the shoe. So I'm going to pull the shoe apart a little bit and drop it in. I'm going to put my spring on. Hooks onto there and hooks onto there. So now these shoes are basically together. Once it gets on the machine, the truck, this big spring is going to go across the bottom. Like so. First thing I need to do is put the park brake cable on. And to do that, I'm going to use a pair of needle nose vice grips. I'm going to pull the spring back on the cable. I took a pair of pliers and I pulled the spring back on the cable as far as I could. There's a little hoop here that the cable rides in. Keeping that hoop, the little bracket, whatever you want to call it, helps keep the cable from kinking while you try to pull it back. So now I got a little space of bare cable without spring on it. So I'm going to take my shoe, which is where it is now. Okay, so I've got this park brake cable on. I'm going to set this spring here across them 2 holes. The furthest one's out. I'm going to put it on the wheel cylinder. And I'm going to force it onto the bottom here. Making sure that my wheel cylinder does not pop apart on me. There. All right, my pins for my spring and my keeper. Brake shoes are on. Wheel cylinder's been replaced. Next thing we'll do is we're going to pack the wheel bearings and get the drums ready to go back on. This hardware here and the springs, like I said, you should replace. Thank you for watching yet another one of my cheesy YouTube videos. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And remember, if you love life and learning new things, go aimless.com.